Welcome to the Carriker Chronicles, the People Show. Checking the pulse of Husker Nation, brought to you by DPS Concrete Construction. Check them out at dpsconstruction.net. Also, ladies and gentlemen, if you want all your Husker sports hopes and dreams to come true, check out carrikerchronicles.com. It's just science. dpsconstruction.net, carrikerchronicles.com. Ladies and gentlemen, today I'm going to talk about Deion Sanders versus Matt Rhule. Oh yeah, I'm going to go there. The culture war. Now, to be clear, I'm talking about the culture war of the respective college football programs. Could not possibly be two more different approaches to coaching a college football program than these two individuals. I'm going to dive into that. Also, ladies and gentlemen, I've got a Kool-Aid jar, glass, jug thing, but they're empty. Why are they empty? Because I'm not drinking the Kool-Aid or the Rhule-Aid, although I do think Rhule's done a good job so far, just yet, okay? And I'm going to explain more about this at the end of the show. All right, make sure I don't drop that glass and all. All right, here are the four things we're going to talk about today, ladies and gentlemen. Number one, I got the 12 most intriguing stats for Nebraska's game on Saturday. All right, we're going to take a brief early look ahead to Colorado. And then we're going to get into the crux, the main point of this video, Deion Sanders versus Matt Rhule, the culture war, okay? And also, I'm going to talk about the biggest differences that I see. Now, let's start right off the top. The 12 stats that stood out the most to me from Nebraska's game on Saturday. Nebraska's 40 points. Now, actually, this was the first time Nebraska had a home opener, or an opening game of the season at home since 2019. Okay, that's not the first stat. The first interesting stat, Nebraska's 40 points marked its first 40-plus point game since a 56-7 victory over Northwestern in 2021. The 33-point margin of victory was Nebraska's largest since a 49-point victory over that Northwestern Wildcat team on that particular night a few years ago. It's English. The victory margin was Nebraska's largest in an opener since a 43-10 win over Fresno State in 2016. If you remember, that's the game where they honored Sam Foltz as well. Number two, the Huskers' 23-point second quarter was the highest scoring quarter since 28 points were scored in the first quarter against Bethune-Cookman. All right, 6 years ago in 2018 was Nebraska's most lopsided shutout quarter since outscoring Wyoming 28-0 in the fourth quarter in September of 2016. Number three, true freshman Dylan Raiola just became the second true freshman quarterback to start a season opener since World War II. The other one, Adrian Martinez, in 2018 versus Colorado. Number four, most interesting stat, Nebraska threw for 284 yards, its highest total, since throwing for 354 yards at Purdue in 2022. Nebraska's season high in passing in 2023 last year was 199 yards. So doing better. All right. Number five, Nebraska finished with 507 yards of total offense. I got lots of notes here. That's obviously why I'm looking down if you're watching me on the tube of you, including 284 pass yards and 223 yards on the ground. The total offense output was Nebraska's best since gaining 575 yards against Georgia Southern. I just hate even mentioning that game. Even in a positive manner, in 2022, which was also Nebraska's last 500-yard output performance in a game offensively as well. The Huskers had 339 yards before halftime to open the season on Saturday, just 80 yards shy of the Huskers' 2023 game high for total yardage of 419 yards versus Louisiana Tech. All right, today marked the first time Nebraska has topped 200 yards. Saturday marked the first time Nebraska has topped 200 yards in both rushing and passing on offense since that Georgia Southern game in 2022. Isaiah Nayor balled out. He had 6 catches for 121 yards. Nayor's 100-yard receiving game is the first by a Husker since Trey Palmer had 165 receiving yards versus Iowa in 2022. Offensive tackle Bryce Benhart made his 42nd career start in Saturday's game, setting a record for the most career starts by a Husker offensive lineman. Congrats, Bryce Benhart. He was previously tied with Husker legend Zach Wiegert. All right, next, Nebraska held UTEP to 7 points, marking the 8th consecutive opponent the Huskers have limited to 24 points or fewer. If we can keep doing that and keep scoring just a little bit more like it seems we can do this year, good things are going to happen, ladies and gentlemen. This is the longest stretch Nebraska has limited the opposition to 24 points or less since a 14-game stretch between 2009, 2010. Okay, those seasons. Not a bad stretch for the Black Shirts at that point. Next, Nebraska limited UTEP to 205 total yards, marking its 8th consecutive opponent to gain less than 400 yards. All right, last couple of stats here. Nebraska limited UTEP to 56 yards rushing, and the safety that Nebraska got due to great penetration by Ty Robinson was Nebraska's first defensive safety since recording a safety in the 2009 Holiday Bowl versus Arizona. That stat, I was like, wow, I did not realize it had been that long. Now again, this was against UTEP, all right, projected to be one of the worst 15 to 20 teams in the country, but you got to start somewhere, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, and I'll take how Nebraska's first game went. Personally, I hope you feel the same way. Maybe you don't. Let me know in the comments below, especially how our young quarterback looked in his debut. Now, here's a brief look at Colorado. Last year, most of us know they started out 3-0, red hot, setting the nation on fire, beat TCU, beat Nebraska, beat Colorado State. Okay, and then they lost 8 of their last 9 games, including a 6-game losing streak to end the year, which was actually kicked off by a Friday night loss at home to a very poor Stanford team, a game in which the Buffaloes had a 29-point lead at halftime and then blew it in the second half. Their lone win, okay, in their last 9 games came against Arizona State, and that's the game where Shedeur let Colorado come back in the fourth quarter, game-winning drive, goes up to the student section, starts flashing the wrist, the phantom Rolex and watch and all that, if you remember that. All right, now in the last 2 years, this is where you start to see the differences in the culture between Matt Rhule, Coach Prime, Nebraska, Colorado, how these programs are being built. I don't know this. I still think when Shedeur's gone, there's a good chance if Deion has success this year, he's going somewhere else. He doesn't want to go to the NFL, maybe SEC, Big Ten, I don't know. To me, it doesn't look like he's building a program for the long term, but I could be wrong. I don't know this for a fact, just sure appears that way. In the last 2 years, Colorado's had 97 total transfers. I'm gonna look at my laptop for this. So here's some other stats on the transfers in and out for Colorado and just how crazy some of these numbers are. Colorado signed 72 new scholarship players in the 2023 class, high school and transfers, mostly transfers, by the way, with 61% of them no longer on the roster. 35 of the team's 51 transfer additions from the 2023 cycle are no longer on the roster, with 21 of them, 43.1%, entering the portal either during the winter or this spring. All right, 10 members of Colorado's 21-player 2023 high school class, 47.6%, have already entered the portal. All right, it's worth mentioning that Colorado also replaced their entire offensive line. They're all not only new starters, they're brand new players trying to protect Shedeur. Okay, and all 41 players had transferred since the first transfer window opened in December. A year ago, when Sanders led a roster overhaul unlike anything we'd ever seen in college football, ladies and gentlemen, only 10 scholarship players returned from Colorado's 2022 roster to 2023. Man, he wasn't kidding when he said, we coming and we bringing Louis. We don't know if it's Louis yet, but they sure came and they sure brought some sort of bags. All right, we'll see how much Louis they are or not as this season unfolds. It seemed like a bold move, yet, depending on your reasoning, okay, it could be a reasonable move, I suppose, especially considering Colorado's incoming transfer class ranked #1 nationally at the time. So it depends on how you want to look at that. When you look at just Nebraska, conversely a little bit. Now, I'm genuinely curious to see how this works. I'm not slamming this. It's not how I would do it, but so what? I'm not getting paid what Coach Prime's getting paid, or Rhule, or anybody else. Okay. I'm genuinely curious to see how this plays out and how this works or doesn't work. All right, now, by contrast, Nebraska has the most amount of returning production coming back of any team in the Big Ten and top 5 in the entire country, and every single starter on defense is either a junior or senior that's been in the program and is coming back, all right, for another year with Nebraska. Now, in the first game of the year, Colorado defeated North Dakota State 31-26, a game that came down to the last play of the game. You got to put a lot of respect on North Dakota State. They got a great FCS program. Still FCS, though, okay? North Dakota State had more first downs. They outrushed Colorado by nearly 100 yards, and they dominated the time of possession by over 13 minutes. 36-44, the Bison had the ball. The Buffalo had the ball 23-16. What exactly is the difference between a Bison and a Buffalo? I'm not sure. Oh, as always, I want to give a shout out to our sponsors, DPS Concrete Construction. All right, if you're looking to have construction work, concrete work done, go to dpsconstruction.net. If this is your line of work, especially if you're in the Omaha metro area, go to dpsconstruction.net. Also, give a shout out to Allen Capital Group. They are the people who do my family's finances. They've done it for over a decade. I genuinely trust them. I trust them with my family's financial future. It's hard to find something more important and more trustworthy, okay, than trying to figure out who's going to take care of your family's financial future, and I trust Allen Capital Group. If you are searching for a financial planner who is rooted in Nebraska values, Allen Capital Group is a homegrown Nebraska business with offices in Grand Island, Oglala, and Omaha. They will work to understand what is meaningful to your financial needs, wants, and wishes. They personally helped me and my family navigate our finances, like I said, for years, for over a decade. Check out their website at allencapgroup.com. That's allencapgroup.com for more information. Allen Capital Group, next level solutions for next level needs. All right, ladies and gentlemen, now let's look at Deion versus Matt Rhule and learn about them and their backgrounds just a little bit, and then the biggest differences I see between these two programs. Okay, Deion, all right, I'll try to go quickly. I talked about some of this way in the past, but if you forgot, didn't see, or are just interested by this stuff like I am, here we go. Let's learn about Deion and Matt Rhule and their history just a little bit. Now, Deion was born and raised in southern part of Florida. He was an all-state honoree in football, basketball, and baseball. He was selected to the Florida High School Association All-Century Team in Florida, originally drafted in the 6th round by the Kansas City Royals as well. Now, Matt Rhule, born and raised in New York City. He was born and raised in the North, the son of a pastor born in New York City, then moved to State College, Pennsylvania. As a teenager, played linebacker at State College area high school. After high school, Deion Sanders played 3 sports, football, baseball, and track at Florida State. In football, Sanders was a 2-time consensus All-American in 1987 and 1988, a Jim Thorpe Award winner, and was the 5th overall pick in the 1989 draft by the Atlanta Falcons. He also excelled in not only the NFL, but in baseball and track as well at Florida State. I heard a story. I don't know if this is true, but I just heard a story that the Bengals wanted a meeting with Deion at the NFL Combine. They had a 6th pick in the draft. Deion didn't go, and when later asked why, he said, "I'm not going to be there at number 6. He was right. He was gone at number 5 by the Falcons, if it's a true story. Who knows? All right, Matt Rhule. After high school, walked on at Penn State under Joe Paterno. He played for the Nittany Lions for 4 years and was a 3-time Penn State Scholar athlete and a 1997 academic All-Big Ten honoree. Rhule earned a bachelor's degree in political science from Penn State in 1997 and a master's degree in educational psychology from the University of Buffalo in 2003. And if I had to guess, I still think 1994 stings just a little bit for Coach Rhule. Obviously, he's come to the good side. But I heard him mention it one time in front of a group of people. They were kind of giving him a hard time as he was talking. He's a good public speaker. They were kind of giving him a hard time. He's like, "Don't you boo me," kind of joking. "You guys beat us in 94 for the national title." So that was pretty funny. All right, after college, Deion Sanders played 14 years in the NFL, a 2-time Super Bowl champ, NFL Defensive Player of the Year in 1994, 8-time Pro Bowler, 8-time All-Pro. His list of accomplishments is obviously a mile wide, but if you didn't know, he was a 1992 NFL kickoff return yardage leader. Also, NFL 1990s All-Decade Team, NFL 100th Anniversary All-Team. He also played 9 years. I didn't know this until recently. Almost a decade. 9 years in Major League Baseball. Coach Prime is the only player to ever hit a Major League home run and score a touchdown in the NFL in the same week. He's the only athlete to play in both the Super Bowl and the World Series. And he's also coached his son, Shadur Sanders, ever since Shadur was playing youth football, very young in elementary school. All right, now Matt Rhule. He's coached just about every freaking thing you can coach. Offense, defense, different positions. If you didn't know, I've talked about this before. But briefly, he has coached linebackers in college, defensive line in college, been an offensive coordinator, been a quarterback's coach. He's also coached defensive line in the NFL as well. And he's obviously been a head coach, as we know, in the NFL with the Panthers, and then college, Temple, Baylor, and now at Nebraska. Okay. So now you got some of the background on Nebraska, their first game, Colorado, their first game, kind of how some of these things are being approached by the coaches when it comes to player retention versus not player retention versus transfer portal or whatever the case may be. Here are the biggest differences that I see. Well, one thing is Nebraska kind of wants to be similar in a way to North Dakota State, being physical, play defense, run the ball, smash mouth. Nebraska's just a little bit more talented. Okay, so I hope that helps us on Saturday versus Colorado. I will say that there are some similarities kind of between North Dakota State and Nebraska from the aspect of want to run the ball, want to be physical, want to play great defense. Okay, all due respect to the North Dakota State Bison, Nebraska's got just a little bit more talent. All right, now the biggest differences I see, number one, developing players, which is what Matt Rhule wants to do. He wants to emphasize recruiting high school players. He wants you to stay here. He wants to develop you, and he wants to get you eventually on that field and into the NFL. He wants to find diamonds in the rough, okay, or recruit highly recruited players as well. That's okay too. But he wants to develop you. Whereas what I see from Coach Prime is I kind of feel like he's just trying to out-athlete other teams by gathering already developed talent, a.k.a. the transfer portal, a.k.a. you come to me, all right? And it's a culture of development, almost what appears to be a culture of clicks, so to speak. And that's not even a shot. That's just my opinion. I don't mean to be negative, positive. That's just my opinion. Okay, number 2, it comes across like Matt Rhule genuinely cares about his players. And when people come and go as much as they do at Colorado, and Deion says things like, you got to come to me, or not you have to come to me, but come to me when it comes to recruiting. This is just my opinion. Take it for what it is. Okay, it feels like Matt Rhule might care, okay, a little bit more about his players than Deion does, and that's just my perception. I'm not saying he doesn't care. I'm not saying Deion's a bad guy. I'm not saying any of that stuff. It's a way more business-like approach with Coach Prime, like very much more business-like approach. Not that he is trying to disrespect anybody or he's trying to tear anybody down. Not saying that. I just feel like Matt Rhule genuinely cares about his players on a personal level just a little bit more. All right, number 3, physicality versus finesse. All right, this is kind of Matt Rhule's philosophy everywhere he goes, so it also fits with what Nebraska's done for years. Run the ball first, play good defense, versus Deion. I don't feel like they really coach blocking or tackling. If you watched their first game, if you watched them last year, okay, and if you remember, Deion, in my opinion, is the greatest cornerback of all time in the history of the NFL, but he didn't like to tackle, okay? And so to me, it's physicality versus finesse. It's run the ball first, play good defense, okay, versus a team that doesn't really seem to be too interested in coaching blocking, tackling. There was even a video that came out during Colorado's fall camp of don't touch this player, don't touch this player, don't touch this player. I think it was Shadur and Travis Hunter and somebody else, which the quarterback is pretty normal. To hear that about a position player, although Travis plays a lot of plays every game, is a little unique. I feel like Colorado just wants to get the ball to their players in space. And I don't even know if they want to play defense, honestly. All right, Nebraska wants to beat you in the trenches. I feel like this is the last one. Colorado wants to out-athlete you. So to me, Matt Rhule coached offensive lines and defensive lines, and he knows football is one of the trenches, whereas Deion seems to want to turn it into a flag football game and out-athlete everybody. Again, that's my perception, and that is my perception. Love it, hate it, in between. It is what it is. All right, to be clear, Deion was my favorite NFL player growing up, and I've been intrigued by him, borderline intrigued by him my entire life. He's a celebrity amongst celebrities. I've talked about this before. In fact, I get crap for talking about Deion so much sometimes on social media and in my shows. I'm going to keep doing that because I am intrigued by him, okay? And I am curious to see how this works out at Colorado. All right. I am genuinely curious to see what he does, how he does it, and how it does or doesn't work, okay, at Colorado. I actually think college football is better with him. All right, so none of this is meant as negativity. It's just my honest opinion. All right, it's just what I see right now. Maybe that'll change. Who knows? All right, now, let's get back to that Kool-Aid. So, we literally bought these. This Kool-Aid jug, the word I couldn't think of earlier, and this glass. And here's the deal. They're empty right now. I'm oh so tempted to drink the Rhule-Aid, the Kool-Aid, whatever you want to call it. Nebraska beats Colorado this Saturday. On my next show, I am going to drink some frickin' Kool-Aid, ladies and gentlemen. I'm oh so close to being so in on the Kool-Aid and the Rhule-Aid. I've been excited and had legit optimism all off season, but that Rhule-Aid and Kool-Aid, oh, it's just tipping for me. Nebraska beats Colorado. I'm going to drink some Kool-Aid right here on the show. You can join me if you'd like. All right, ladies and gentlemen, here are my 3 questions for you fine folks at home. Let me know your answer in the comments below. Number 1, you can just keep these answers short, okay? You can just give me the coach's name. Who would you rather have coaching your team, Matt Rhule or Coach Prime? Number 2, okay? You can just say the name of the team, Colorado or Nebraska. Who will win more games this year, Colorado or Nebraska? Number 3, no score predictions just yet. I'm still working on mine, so don't give me your score predictions just yet. But who's going to win on Saturday? Who's going to win the game, Colorado or Nebraska? Until next time, Husker Nation, go Big Red Nose. Remember to throw the ball.